If you're a homeowner in California, you've almost definitely heard about Proposition 19. And chances are you've heard a dozen different things about what it does. It can get super confusing really fast. But don't worry. In this explainer, we are going to break it all down into simple, easy to understand pieces. So let's just dive right in. So what is Prop 19, really? At its heart, it's a change to the California Constitution that tweaked the property tax rules. But here's the key. It only applies in two very specific situations: when certain homeowners decide to move, and when a property gets passed down through a family. That's it. It's not some universal law that affects every single person. To make this really simple, just think of Prop 19 as answering two big questions. On one side, you've got homeowners moving, and they're asking, hey, can I take my low property tax base with me? And on the other side, you've got kids inheriting a home, wondering what's about to happen to the property taxes on this place. The rules for these two situations are completely 100% different, and that right there is the secret to understanding this whole thing. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to walk through what happens when you move and want to bring your tax base along for the ride. Then, we'll tackle the totally separate rules for inheriting property. After that, we are going to bust the single biggest myth about this law. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the key things you absolutely have to remember. Okay, let's kick things off with part 1. This section is for any homeowner who's thinking about selling their main home and buying a new one. This is all about what we call tax base portability. So who actually gets to use this benefit? Well, it's not for everybody. The law is super specific about who qualifies to, pack up their low property tax assessment in a moving box and take it to their new house. And here's the list. You are eligible if you're 55 or older, if you're severely and permanently disabled, or if your home was damaged or destroyed in something like a wildfire or another disaster that qualifies. If you're in one of those 3 buckets, you're in the game. But, and this is a big but, there is a condition you absolutely can't get around. It's not enough to just be in one of those groups. The home you sell must be your primary residence, and the new home you buy also has to become your primary residence. We're not talking about vacation homes or rental properties here. This point is absolutely correct. This is probably the #1 question people have about this part of the law. What if I want to upsize? What if my new dream home costs more than my old one? Can I still get this tax break? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can. But the calculation works a little differently. It's not a complete one-for-one transfer. It's more of a blended deal. Let's walk through a quick example with a homeowner we'll call Susan to see exactly how the math works out. All right, so here's Susan. She's over 55, and she's ready to sell her longtime home. Her property taxes are based on this assessed value of $1 million. This is that sweet, low tax base she really wants to protect. Now, Susan goes out and buys a new primary residence for $1.5 million. So it's $500,000 more expensive than her old assessed value. What happens now? Does she lose the benefit? Nope. Under Prop 19, Susan gets to transfer her original $1 million base, but that $500,000 difference in price, that gets added on top. So her new assessed value becomes $1.5 million. The key here is she keeps the benefit on that first $1 million and only pays the higher tax rate on the extra value. Oh, and here's a little detail a lot of people miss. For seniors and disabled homeowners, this isn't just a one-time thing. You can actually do this up to 3 times in your lifetime. For folks who lost their home in a disaster, it's a one-time benefit for each qualifying event. All right, deep breath. We're moving on to part 2, and this is all about inheriting property. And I really can't say this enough. Forget everything we just talked about. I mean it. The rules for inheritance are a completely separate world with totally different logic. So if a child inherits a home and wants to keep even a piece of their parents' low tax base, they have to nail these 3 steps, and they have to be in this order. First, the house had to be the parents' main home. Second, the child has to move in and make it their main home. And third, they've got to file for the homeowner's exemption on time. You miss one step, you fumble any part of this, and the benefit is gone. So what if the property wasn't the parents' main home? What if it was a rental property or the family vacation cabin? Well, the answer is simple, and it's immediate. The property gets fully reassessed to its current market value right at the moment the parent passes away. The family connection doesn't stop it. And this is so important to get. Let's say you inherit a rental property. The county reassesses it immediately. You can't then decide a year later, hey, I think I'll move in, and try to undo that reassessment. It doesn't work that way. The property status at the moment of death is what locks everything in. There are no do-overs. Okay, now we get to the main event. This is where I swear almost all the confusion about Prop 19 comes from. We are about to untangle the single biggest, most persistent myth about this law.
I bet you've heard this one. Someone inherits a house and their neighbor or their cousin tells them, "Oh, you have to live in it for 2 years." Where on earth does that idea come from? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with Proposition 19, and it causes so many people to make really costly mistakes.
Okay, look closely here, because this slide is everything. People are confusing two totally different types of taxes that operate in two different universes. For property taxes under Prop 19, living in the home matters right when you inherit it to keep the low tax base. But for capital gains taxes, which is an income tax, living in the home for 2 of the last 5 years matters when you eventually sell the house because it might lower your tax bill. They're two different laws for two different taxes that kick in at two different times.
Let me just put a fine point on it as clearly as I can. Proposition 19 is about one thing, and one thing only: your annual property tax bill. It has zero, and I mean zero, effect on the capital gains income tax you might have to pay if and when you sell a property down the road.
So after all of that, what are the most important things you need to walk away with? Let's just boil it all down to the crucial points you have to remember to handle Prop 19 the right way. Okay, first, Prop 19 is basically 2 laws rolled into one for moving, one for inheriting. Second, the rules for moving and the rules for inheriting are from different planets. They are not the same. Third, none of this is automatic. You have to file the paperwork on time to get the benefits. And finally, the big one. Do not confuse property tax rules with capital gains tax rules. So, the next time you or someone you know is facing a decision about a property in California, here's the one question to ask that will keep you on the right track. Just stop and ask yourself, am I thinking about my yearly property tax bill, or am I thinking about the income tax I might pay when I sell? Just answering that one question first will save you from a world of trouble.